What do you do when you're filing your marriage-based green card? You may be newly married, you don't have that much documentation, or you're filing for your removal of the conditions on your green card and you didn't accumulate that much documentation. Having the necessary documentation is so important, and what we're gonna do is talk about how to address that issue through affidavit. So you'll want to make sure that you watch this video until the end, which can help you with the details that you need to know in filing affidavits with your application. If you're applying for a marriage-based green card, one of the most important aspects in filing your green card is showing that you have what's called a good faith marriage. So it's not because you are married that you're going to get your green card approved. You have to meet that standard, and you have the burden of proof of demonstrating that you have a real good faith relationship. If you're unable to do that, then USCIS may not approve your case. What a good faith marriage means is that you entered the marriage to be a true married couple, not just to get immigration benefits. USCIS immigration, they want to make sure that you don't have a fake relationship, and one of the ways that they make that determination is by looking at the documentation you provide. And at the time that I'm shooting this video, it's even more so the case because of the fact that USCIS is now at times foregoing interviews. So then they're just looking at the documentation, which makes that documentation even more important. When do you want to submit an affidavit with your green card application? Because of instances of marriage fraud where individuals enter into sham marriages because of just for immigration benefit, USCIS does scrutinize marriage-based applications carefully to distinguish whether or not you really have a genuine marriage from a fraudulent one. So when submitting your application, you can provide evidence showing the validity of your marriage, including birth certificates of children, joint federal and state tax filings, documents for joint finances like bank accounts or retirement plans, jointly owned assets, joint liabilities such as loans, credit cards, leases, or mortgage. But what do you do if your evidence is limited or you don't have the substantial documentation to prove that your marriage is bona fide? This is where the affidavit can be a valuable tool for you. The affidavit is essentially a written statement from someone who knows you and can vouch for the validity of your marriage. This could include someone that you've worked with, a family member, a close friend, someone who knows both you and your spouse, has spent time with you, so that they can honestly attest to the fact that you have a real relationship. What's really helpful with these affidavits is where they can talk about specific instances where they've interacted with you as a couple. Now you might wonder, well, are these affidavits in this kind of situation mandatory? No, it's not mandatory, but it can substantially bolster your case, especially in these situations where you don't have very many joint documents. Now, keep in mind that objective evidence such as the joint documents that I discussed earlier carry much more weight than what's subjective evidence such as affidavits. So what do you include with your affidavit? What's in the affidavit? An effective affidavit for a marriage-based green card should provide detailed, truthful, and specific information about your marriage relationship. Here's some important information that you'll want to include. What's their full name, address, birth details, and relationship to you as the couple. And then next, what's the relationship history? How do they know you? What's the duration of knowing you? And how often do they interact with you? Also discussing the belief in whether or not they believe that the marriage is authentic. So this could be an explanation of why they believe the marriage is genuine based on personal observations. Contact information to verify a sworn statement under penalty of perjury confirming the information provided is accurate and truthful, and a date and signature. The affidavit should be signed and dated as well. Now you might be wondering, can the affidavit be handwritten? Well, it can, but it's recommended that it be typed out because it looks much more credible and professional. You should also include a certified translation if the affidavit is not in English. Now let's get into the nitty-gritty. What are some tips for writing an effective affidavit? You want to be detailed and specific. Include anecdotes, instances that demonstrate your relationship dynamic. You want to personalize the statement, so write it like you were talking to the officer. Emphasize emotional aspects, so talk about how you've witnessed emotional connections between the couple. If there are specific red flags about the relationship, you can address them truthfully and honestly as well. And then last, you want to provide the contact information as well, so if the officer has questions, they can contact the person who's writing the affidavit. Now let's talk about removing the conditions on the green card. So in this situation, if you have a conditional green card, you're going to need to remove the conditions on the green card through Form I-751. A lot of people confuse this with Form I-90 in renewing the green card if you have a conditional green card. So make sure if you have a conditional green card and you're removing the conditions on the green card, you're using the appropriate form. You might be filing an I-751 in this situation where you have a divorce. You may not have many joint documents, and even if you do have joint documents, in this situation, you will definitely want to provide affidavit. When you're divorced, it can be more challenging to prove that your marriage was entered into good faith, and an affidavit can substantially help with shedding light on the circumstances and the validity of your marriage, including the event that led to the actual divorce. In the I-751 situation where you're filing a waiver of the joint filing, it adds a whole nother layer of complexity. So I do recommend that you do consult with an experienced immigration lawyer to make sure that you provide everything that's necessary and also address all of the issues that come with filing a joint waiver application for the I-751. While filing affidavits don't solely determine whether or not your case is going to be approved, it does help bolster your case, so it is recommended. I hope this video serves you. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video, and you can share this with your friends and family who may need help as well. You're truly amazing by bettering yourself, and by bettering yourself, you're bettering your family. By bettering your family, you're bettering the world. Thank you. Bye for now.